Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Leaders Toolbox. I am so glad that you're here with us today. I hope that you have had an amazing day so far, and we are so excited to make it even a bit better with the special guest that we have here with you today. So I am excited to introduce someone who is a lot of things to me and to the world. So he's a great friend to me. He is the world's best Disney travel guide in the world. He is the co-owner and founder of Beebe's Bargains. And I'd like to welcome to the show, John Beebe.
Well, hey, Andre, it's great to be here as a friend of yours, but it's also great to be here as just a co-entrepreneur. You're kind of doing life together, and I always get encouraged by you, always get inspired. So it's an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you for being back. This is the second time John is
Of
back,
course.
so you know that he's a big deal. And I always like to give a frame of reference of how I know someone. And then I love, John, for you to share who you are. Let's connect with the audience and really get into some of the things that I see you provide so much value in as a person and as a professional. And this show is all about picking up the nuggets that leaders are dropping and leaving behind. So you guys listening, do not get in an accident if you're driving in your car. You pull over, you take notes, you get your phone out, you hit record. And at the end, please connect with John Beebe and all of his services that can help you out. I had the honor, I think it's like 3 years ago now, of going on a walk in my neighborhood. That is how I self-care. I love going for walks. Now, the hill in our neighborhood, you need the staff of Moses to get up it. So it's not a leisure walk. But it has become very leisurely because as I was walking and I got to the bottom of the hill, I met a new neighbor. And John Beebe was that guy. And now we have become best friends. Our families are best friends. We travel together. So you know that's something. And it's been an honor knowing you and meeting you and your family.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate that, Andre. You're the first family, and I think the only family that we've went on the full vacation with, start to finish, like left the house together, came home together. And I'll just tell you, it felt like we were with family.
Yes.
It just felt like it's supposed to feel. So
Thank you for saying that. And we're going to jump into a lot of different things. But first, I'd like for you to introduce yourself. Who's John Beebe and how do you make impact professionally and personally?
awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm a husband to Lauren. I'm a girl dad times three. So I have three beautiful daughters. I'm the leader of Bill's Mafia, I like to call it, or at least I pretend I am. Go Bills, and a man of faith. And I love serving people as an entrepreneur and being able to help people. So I'd like to just catch you up kind of on my journey a little bit. Like Andre said before, I was on before. So if you want to go back to hear all the details of that story and through some of my transitions, you can go back there. But I want to take you back on a journey real quick over the next 3 minutes. I'm going to go all the way back to 2009. My wife and I were expecting our first child. We were so excited. We were going in to the appointment to hear the heartbeat of our baby. And when we got into this appointment, like literally we were on cloud nine. We were like skipping into the appointment. We couldn't have been more excited. We get into this appointment, and we get the news that you've lost your baby. And this was our first child. It had taken us a while to conceive. We had been trying a while, and we had lost our first baby. And I remember my wife's words after she had to go in for operation or procedure because she wasn't passing the baby. She had to go into a procedure. And when she came out of the procedure and she was coming to with the anesthesia, I remember going in, the doctor said, like, she's coming out, but you can go see her, but she's still kind of under the influence of the anesthesia. And I remember going in and I said, Lauren, it's me. And she turned her head and opened her eyes and looked at me. And I said, you all right? And she whispered, yeah. But then she said, he's gone. And those words, he's gone, just rung at me. Those were some of the hardest words I've ever heard whispered to me. And, so that was said. We don't know if it was boy or girl, but in our eyes, that was our little boy. And he was gone. A few months later, we're expecting another child. And we are on cloud nine. That child right now is actually 13. Her name is Ava. So we are on cloud nine expecting that child. So just to let you know, nothing bad happened there. And I'm having success. I'm a youth pastor. I'm having success. That's what I went to school for. Things are going really well. And I get a phone call while we're on vacation. And when you're on vacation as a newly married person, it's a luxury. You don't just get to go on those all the time because you're newly married. You don't have much money. And I get a phone call, and in the phone call, they tell me the outcome of that phone call is that you're being let go. You're being fired.
Oh, wow.
And I got let go from my job. We lost everything we had worked for. We had to foreclose on our house.
Wow.
We lost our job. We lost our insurance. Lauren was expecting, like I said, so we lost all of that. And what hurt the most was the feeling of losing those relationships from that church I was working at, feeling betrayed by my boss, all those feelings that I went through. And I'm sure you've had those feelings of betrayal, of loss of relationships. And Lauren felt led at that point to start finding ways to earn extra income so I can pursue my passion of serving as a pastor that I felt I was called to do in that season. I joined her in all that fun, and I helped her out at certain points. At one point, I was an Uber driver for a couple of years, so I was a pastor by day, Uber driver by night, which was a lot of fun. And that led to Lauren in 2018. So now we're fast forwarding a lot, starting Beebe's Bargains. And Beebe's Bargains is an affiliate marketing company, and we try to save people time and money by finding them the best online deals and posting them to our sites, to our community. And now 5 years later, I'm no longer an Uber driver, nor am I a pastor by trait, but I'm an entrepreneur with my wife, and I am able to be there with my family in ways I have never been able to, and but that my family and my wife desperately needed. So here's what I know. I know one thing. If I know one thing, that you don't have the exact story of me, Andre, the listeners, you don't have that exact story that I have. But what I do know is that each of us have felt pain, abandonment. We've been desperate. We've been longing for some sense of security, for some connection. And while I was there, I'm now seeing the other side of it. And like I said, we started that business out of a Facebook community with a few hundred members consisting of friends and family. And now our community is 66,000 and growing by average of 750 members per month, fully organically over the last year. That's no paid ads. And this year we're on pace to do over 5 million in affiliate sales. And that's our journey of where we were and now where we are. We're still going to have ups and downs. But I'll just tell you, when you press through them, there is light at the end of the tunnel for what you're going through.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing your story, John. And you guys listening, I'm sure parts of his story may have resonated with you, with things that you've gone through personally, relationally, professionally. And my biggest takeaway from what you mentioned is that hardships, when we choose, can turn into leadership. Some people get stuck. You and I, and hopefully you guys listening, will turn your hardship into leadership and will lead you out into a better life professionally and personally. And that's a big reason why I've asked John to be on the show. It's a big reason why I've asked you back, because I was recently on a drive. So I do a lot of travel for a living, and I was on a 3-hour drive, and I thought about you. And there was 3 words that popped up that are monumentally impressive to me. And I was hoping you can shed some light and give us some tips on how to include it in our lives professionally and personally. The first word was connection. And I'm going to explain these 3 words first, and then I want to ask you for your tips and feedback. There is no one on the planet that I know that connects better than John Beebe. I can stand in a line for ice cream, the movies, a show, and talk to the person next to me. No problem. I'm very social. John Beebe will make best friends with this person, then visit this person in Arizona if they live there. The family will wind up staying and bonding, and they become best friends and do things together. It is a level of connection and ability of connection that I've never seen, and it's unmatched. And I'm sure that's paid off for you professionally or personally. Another word is community. You build community seemingly easy and seamlessly. And it's something that I love, being social, but I cannot say that my skill set is building and leading a community. And then lastly is speed. You're a leader, you're an entrepreneur working out there. How frustrated have you been when you've attended a meeting, 17 meetings about the same thing, and nothing's happened? Speed of idea and speed of follow through, or speed of scrapping something that's not working, is powerful as a leader. And John, you do all three of these at a very elite level. Mm. So I want to ask you, and you guys listening, connection. Is this something that's come easy to you because it's who you are? Where do you feel like it comes from? And what's been the benefit for you being able to make so many great connections personally and professionally?
So first of all, it's humbling to hear all of those words, Andre, and I appreciate that. And I apologize that all you were doing was thinking about me on that 3-hour drive. Hopefully there was other thoughts from other people in there, but as you're talking about that, it's humbling. I also want to preface up front that I don't think I've arrived at either of those. It's a constant growth, and we should still be growing. The moment we think we've arrived someplace, that's when we haven't. Unless it's Disney World or the Bill Stadium, and I know I've arrived there because I smell the popcorn or I hear the roar of the crowd. But the moment we think we've arrived professionally, personally, with who we are, that's the moment we fall. I mean, there's a scripture that says pride comes before destruction or before a fall. And it's like, when you get prideful, that's when you're going to fall, when you think you can't learn anything. And pride is really just thinking you don't have anything to learn. So, but when you're talking about connection, I think you're right in that. I mean, I go with friends all the time, and I was with people down in the Jersey Shore, and we ran into people I know there. Like, I've been places and I run into people I know pretty much anywhere I go. It's weird. Lauren will say, you're going to meet somebody you know, or you're going to meet somebody that you already knew, or you're going to meet somebody you're going to know in the future. Like, that's going to become your friend. And that just happens. So, like, I think the first question you ask is, how has it helped me?
Well, so yes. How has, because everybody doesn't have that superpower. It really is a superpower. And it's not that they don't like people.
Yeah.
You guys listening, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just may not be what comes natural to you. You may be more introverted. John's ability to connect, and I know that connection matters. For me, I've had a quote for years. It's amazing how much more people will do for you, with you, because of you, and forgive about your request or some types of organizational change or dysfunction when they have a better connection with you. And I don't know many people that connect better than you. So how has connecting with others been beneficial for you, both personally and professionally?
Well, as you talk about that, I remember growing up, I had an uncle. His name is Uncle Tim. Uncle Tim knew everybody. Like, whenever I would go out with Uncle Tim, he'd be like, oh, there's my buddy. There's my buddy. I was out with him in Buffalo 2 weeks ago, and we were at a restaurant. Like, 3 or 4 people came up to him, or he went up to, that he knew. Now, there was a couple of people there that I knew too, which I was proud of that. But when I was a kid, I thought, when I get older, I want to be like Uncle Timmy. Because what I thought is, if I need anything, all I got to do is call Uncle Timmy, and he's going to know somebody that'll be able to help me. And what I loved is that people loved being around Uncle Timmy. You felt inspired. You felt encouraged. You laughed. You didn't feel like he was about himself. You felt like he was about you. And so, like, as far as how to do that, the world has a lot of things going on. It has entertainment. It has sporting events. It has material things. But I'll tell you, the one thing that brings me the most joy is hanging with people. Hanging with people, because you can connect with people on different levels. And I believe people give us things that we need, whether it be a smile, whether it be a hug, whether it be a prayer at just the right moment. They give you things that you can't get from material things. It's not available. So that's why some of the happiest people, I believe, that I would know, and I haven't had the opportunity to get to know these people in third world countries, but I've heard people that went on these trips. They go to third world countries. They say they are the happiest people in the world. And when I see the pictures and I see the videos, do you know what I see? I see connection. I see them laughing. I see them hugging. I see them arms around each other. They're not arms around each other pointing at the thing in the background that they're trying to show off. They're connecting with each other. And for me, I said, that's what I want in my life. And if we go back to my background, I grew up in a household that was emotionally abusive. I grew up in a household where connection was conditional. It wasn't unconditional. And as I got older, I went through a whole bunch of therapy to move past that. I still do. I actually just got through a 4-month stint of that now. Literally like 2 weeks ago, I just finished it up. And I'll tell you this, what I've noticed is people that have been hurt, they do one of two things when it comes to connections. They either hold everybody at an arm's length because they don't want to feel that hurt again, or they have a good sense of judging people and they pull people in. When they see those good people, they pull them in and they say, I want to connect with you. I want to make you like my family. I mean, Andre, you and I are like brothers. I look at you like a big brother. I look up to you. And we pull those people in and we say, we want to make those people our family or our friends. I don't have a lot of acquaintances. I have a lot of friends.
Yes.
And I have a number of good, or I would call best friends. I don't have just one best friend. I have a few. So I'm sorry, you're not the exclusive, Andre. But
no, let's take a time out for a second, because you're mentioning something that's extremely important, and I love digging into the how. I want everybody listening to walk away with how to do something, not just that it's good to do something. So yes. I love everything that you mentioned, and you're right. Most people have a lot of acquaintances and a few friends. You have a lot of friends and a few acquaintances. So my question is, connection has mattered because it gives you things that materials cannot.
Correct.
You get joy from being around people. There are people listening right now. You're listening and you want to add and enhance your connection in the workplace, with your family, going to networking events. So my question for you, John, is how? How would you suggest that somebody who wants to enhance their connections do it? If you would break it down, what are a few tips that you can give? You're standing in line, you see somebody that's this beacon that you want to talk to. What do you do?
I would say this is what you do. This is the philosophy you need to have, and then I'll break it down a few ways. The philosophy you need to have is, I heard this before, I don't know who said it, so whoever said it, if they hear this, get the credit, but you want to be more interested instead of interesting. So you want to be somebody who is more interested in people than showing off how interesting you are. That's going to help you gain connection with people. And here's the thing, when you're doing that, it needs to be your mindset. If you're faking it just to get a connection with somebody, if you see somebody, I got to connect with that person, if you are faking it to try to get an in with that person, to show that person how interesting you are, it's not going to work. You might pull the wool over that person's eye, but it's not going to work, because you need to be authentic. So if you authentically want to be interested in people, you can create connections.
Wow.
And interested is asking questions, getting to know people, and then learning. I have to learn this. I still have to work on this, because I do it sometimes and I don't mean to do it. And be careful not to one-up people when they're telling you about their life. When they tell you a story and they're like, I love football. I've been to a ton of football games. I've met a ton of football players.
Me too. Me too.
Yes.
Or I was, yeah.
Or it's like, they're like, oh, I was someplace and I met this football player. Sometimes I know some people that are pretty famous, but instead of telling them, oh, really? Well, I know this person too. Like, I would tell it as like, I'm excited, I want to connect with them. Wow. But they might take it as, oh, well, John's just like, oh, he does that too. Oh, I don't need to tell him that. Sometimes I let their story lay and let their story be the highlight.
Can we take a pause for a second? Because every now and then I like to take a pause so people can digest what you just mentioned. Be more interested than interesting. So be curious, ask questions, and let them have their story. You don't have to one-up it. We don't have to me to it. And let them enjoy being the center of attention for that. Any questions that you find you ask regularly to start? Because sometimes this could be very anxiety producing for a lot of people that don't typically do it. Or for those people who are social and like interacting with people, do you have a few questions that you typically find yourself asking?
I try not to be scripted with my questions. Yeah. What I try to be is scripted with my feelings. So I try to be in tune with my feelings, and rather than have it be scripted, I don't like doing that as much. One, I'm not a very, I've self-diagnosed myself with dyslexia. So if I have to memorize a lot of stuff, it doesn't always come out. It doesn't always come out perfect. So just, if you're out there and you have something that's causing you to not be able to learn well, you could still be very successful. That's a little extra nugget. But let me tell you a story that just came to my mind, Andre. I remember going through the line at Redner's. It's a supermarket right near our house. I was going through the line near Redner's. There was a lady, and I know her name. I'm just not going to say it now because I'm going to say something personal that she told me. So I'm going through the line, and I asked her, I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she's like, "Ah, all right." And I was trying to, when I talk to people, I try to feel their spirit, feel like what energy they're getting off. And I was like, what does just all right mean? Like sometimes all right means like, it's all right. All right, Dave. But I felt there was something there. I'm like, what do you mean by all right? She's like, well, like my husband and I are going through some stuff, and then my cousin's sick and, might have cancer. We're not sure what's going on. And I was like, and it was just like, whoa, like and I think she said like my cousin's sick or whatever, something. I'm like, oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything like, I said, can I pray for you? Like, what's going on? Do you mind if I pray for you when I leave? And she's like, yeah, that would mean a lot. So she told me what it was, what happened. And then when I left, I said, hey, I'll check back in with you. And then a week later, I was in there and I went up to her, said her name. I'm like, hey, how's your cousin? And she was like, what? I'm like, remember you told me about that situation? And her husband, by the way, is a Miami Dolphins fan. So I apologize for that. But so I know her husband's a Miami Dolphins fan. And what I do is I ask questions to get to know them, and I feel the spirit of what's going on. She saw me in a Bills shirt, so she's like, oh my goodness, a Bills shirt. My husband's a Miami Dolphins fan. So we connected on that first. And then the next time when I was in, I asked her how she's doing. She's like, all right. So then I said, what do you mean, all right? And I found that out. And then when I came back, I checked in on her with it. Wow. So I'm not always perfect at checking back in on people to make sure they're okay, but you need to at least be conscious of it and do it here or there to check back in. So I don't have questions I specifically ask, but I try to read the situations and understand, hey, what does this person need from me today? When I go through a line, if they're not smiling, it could be real easy to walk out of the line and be like, that person's just a jerk. They're not happy. Like they should smile more. No, it's my job as a leader to get them to smile. I want to gift them with a smile.
You said as a leader, because part of as a leader, whether it's in business or sales, for me, my big question is, what would you like to get out of bringing someone like me in? And this is what you're doing on a personal level at all times. What does this person need most from me right now? And then being able to serve it. In the story that you shared with the woman that you impacted, you asked the question, hey, how are you? You dug a little bit deeper. You asked her name. You remembered her name when you came back. She was probably so shocked that you remembered her name. Do you know how many people would be shocked that you, as a stranger, remembered their name? You knew that her husband was a Dolphins fan. You didn't need to know that. That was something that came up in conversation and you were willing to follow up. So although there's not a script, you guys listening, we seem like we kind of have one. Be curious, ask questions. If you can remember a name, follow up. It's really, really cool what that can do. I want to go to the next part, which is community. What's the difference?
Before you go there, I just want to say one other thing, if that's okay. And I think this is very important with connection. When you're in connection with somebody, you're going to come in contact with people you disagree with. Don't try to change people. It's not your job to change people. I make friends with everybody across the political spectrum, across religious spectrums, across any spectrum. Your job is not to try to change people. And if you go into a conversation, if you start a relationship trying to make this person somebody they're not, your life, your relationship with them will not be good. And chances are they'll push you away. Wow. I mean, try going into a marriage relationship and trying to change your spouse.
Yes.
Try doing that. It doesn't work. Yeah. You have to help lead your spouse, encourage your spouse, and love your spouse. So it's all about loving people rather than trying to change people. If you're trying to get your opinion across to people, you're either going to win your position or you're going to win the person. I'd rather win the person every time. And on the last day when I leave this earth and I stand before God and I say, and he says, you tried to win the person. I'd always try to win. I always want to land on winning the person rather than winning an argument or winning a position. That's all I want to say there.
Well, hey, and that's nuggets. And we're big. I know I'm big on work-life harmony. And this is why we have you on the show and other people on the show, because the things that we're doing that allow us to succeed professionally can help us personally. Yes. The other part that we talked about was community.
Yes.
And I have found that this can be my struggle. I can do great with connection. Community, not so much. It's not what I do naturally. A lot of my entrepreneur friends have built communities and then their business. I built my business and then community. So for you, how has building a community, you have your connections, but community I'm identifying as bringing everybody together in one place for common reasons. So how professionally has building a community for your business been helpful? Now, you mentioned also being a youth pastor. So when you were a pastor, that's a community of itself. Now in business as an entrepreneur, you have your own Beebe's community. So how has it been beneficial building a community?
Well, I run different workshops. I coach entrepreneurs. And one of the things I tell them is one of the sessions I teach is about knowing your community. And when I say knowing your community, what I specifically mean is knowing your community that will become your clients. Mm-hmm. And you have to balance that as an entrepreneur, because I just say know your community. When I talk about that point, it's just know your community, because I don't want it to be tied real closely with know your community of clients. Now, I talk about that they will become your clients, but I don't put that on my points. And the reason being is because you need to treat it as a community that you care about these people. And then you're going to sell them something someday. That is your goal. We know that you want to sell them something. But in order to sell them something, you need to know your community, because if you're just, when I work with entrepreneurs, if they're only doing it to try to make money, I'm not working with them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's not what I teach. Mm-hmm. I don't teach entrepreneurs just how to make money, because at the end of the day, you can make money and be a rotten person. Mm. And that does not help the world. We want to make the world a better place. So I believe when you serve first, success follows. And when I say success, I mean financial success. Mm-hmm. Success will follow. Yes. So I always say serve first, then look for the finance. Now, we all need to make money and things like that. So that does play a part of it.
Can I share something? And this,
yes.
When I first started my business, and maybe entrepreneurs and business people and leaders within organizations have been on the same journey. When I first started, or we start because we have a dream. We want to make an impact. We can't stop thinking about it. We will do it for free. And you typically do at first.
Yes.
So that was there. Then there's a certain level of your business when you start making good money. Now, that definition changes the more successful you get, but at some point you hit what you think is your pinnacle, and it can infiltrate your spirit. Then now it's about money. So a couple months ago, I had up on my mirror, make this much a year, get into real estate and something else, a goal. And I looked, and I was looking at it, and one day it disgusted me. I looked back at it, I stepped back at it, and I erased it. And I said, oh, no. And I replaced it with be of value, and everything you want chases that. Everything you want, all success chases value. So I changed it like that, and I have no more generals. Of course, my goal is to make more than I made the year before, but I no longer have numbers in mind. I wiped all that away, and I feel so much more at peace.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Andre, is you took those goals or those number goals and you made them secondary. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't believe, because you just said, obviously I want to make more than last year. So you do have a number goal.
Yeah, you can have standard. Yeah.
It's just you made that number goal secondary to being of value to other people. Exactly. And here's what happens, what I've seen is when you make the standard being of value, serving other people, what happens is you're going to shatter that goal that you had set, mm-hmm. but you're not even trying to shatter that goal. It just happens.
It just happens.
It's super smart what you did, Andre.
Well, and I didn't have any rhyme or reason. I remember looking at it and I just felt disgusted. Like, no, this is not right. And wiped that off, and it just feels so good. And right before this call, I said, you can have a lot of products, whether you are in an organization, profit, nonprofit, entrepreneur. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I equate it to I'm a big football nut like you are, right? Sometimes an offense can get too cute, and it winds up biting you in the butt. Sometimes you got to say, this is who we are, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to focus on and maximize, and then we can start adding some other things. So sometimes you have to subtract to add. And that was a really great process that just happened inevitably within myself. But I want to ask you a question about community.
Yeah.
And we could take it as small as whether it's a Facebook group somebody wants to start, a LinkedIn group somebody wants to start, a physical networking group you want to start. How you said know your community. What's one piece of advice that you would give outside of knowing them, because you want to know them, but how do you best care for your group? How do you start to build a community for someone that may be in the midst of doing it and don't know really what you mean?
Okay. All right. Great question. So when I talk about community, people think people stay for great products. Great products are great, but what I found is that people come for the product, they'll stay for the community, especially if your business has a communal aspect to it. And I believe there's two parts to have communal aspect to your business. You want to have a communal aspect with your staff or your team, whatever you call them, whether they're 1099ers, whether they're staff members of you on your payroll. And then you want to have an opportunity for the avenue of community within those clients of yours. So that being said, how do you do that? So 3 facets I say to community is you want to create your community, you want to grow your community, and you want to foster your community. Now, this community can be online, it could be in person. Whenever you're creating a community, whenever you're trying to create a community, this is what you got to do for any community. So when I'm talking about that, I'm going to talk specifically right now for a couple minutes on creating an online community. Now, you can choose anywhere you want. I'm going to specifically talk about a Facebook group. That's where we've built our communities, is on Facebook groups. Here's one thing I would tell to you as well. If you are a new entrepreneur or you're just starting a community, don't try to start a community everywhere. Pick one place and be an expert there. You don't need to have, right now, our Beebe's Bargains business has a Facebook group and a Facebook page. The only reason we have a page is because it's healthy to, and we just share everything from the group to the page. And we have that. So we have 2 places on Facebook. We do have an Instagram handle, but we've never used it. It has 30 followers and we've never used it. I just have the handle just in case we're going to use it someday, but it's sitting there. All we've done is focus on Beebe's Bargains on Facebook, and we have our own mobile app. And the reason I say that, this is important for that. The reason I say that is because we don't own the Beebe's Bargains Facebook group. Facebook owns it. We don't own the Beebe's Bargains Facebook page. Facebook owns it. So if Facebook decides that you did something wrong and they don't really communicate with you and they just tell you did something wrong and they kick you off Facebook or they shut down your group, you've lost your whole community.
Yeah.
So you need to also build your community someplace else. You can build community through email list. Reach out to me. I'll help you do that. You can build community through email list, through how you talk to your people and what that looks like. And you're less salesy, you're more communal. You can build it through there. But I would say find one place to start. And if you want to build more on social media, is great, but start with one and build one community on social media. Or if you want to go with Circle or different things like that, there are other places you can build paid communities. But we started with Facebook groups and it's free. Start with Facebook groups, build a group there. So you want to create it. You want to ask a couple questions that are really important. When you're creating your community, you want to say, what's my community's purpose and who is my community intended for? So you want to ask, what's the purpose of my community? Who's my community for? Who's it intended for? Because here's the deal. When you answer those 2 questions, you got to get as specific as possible. Yeah. We've all had friends that have invited us. They're selling hair products and they invite everybody on their friend list. No, you only invite the people that fit that criteria, because you know what? Community is around a shared interest.
Yes.
Community is around a shared, like you have a shared interest. You guys are similar type people, and you want to talk about that. If you got everybody from your friend group in a group or in a room, and you guys wanted to talk about shampoo, half of them nobody's going to be talking about shampoo, because they're going to be like, oh, we don't care about it. We're talking about football over here. We're talking about travel over here. We're talking about, politics over here. You're going to have all different other conversations going on, yes, and it's not going to be there. So you want to get just the people. So if you have 5 people, 10 people if you only have 20 people say you have 100 Facebook friends, find the Facebook friends that meet the criteria of what's your community's purpose, and who's my community intended for. You ask those 2 questions and you get as specific as possible. The reason why getting specific is important, you might say, well, this product can appeal to a wide range of people. Then you don't know who to market it to.
Right.
And then it's harder to talk to that community because you're trying to talk to a wide range. You want to niche it down as niche as possible, as specific as possible. And then you want to only invite people that meet that criteria, not just anyone. If you do just invite anyone, it's not going to be a community then. It's just going to be a hodgepodge of people. So that's how you start, by creating your community. I have many tips around growing and fostering your community. And
give us one tip on fostering, because there's people out there right now that have a community, but perhaps it's stagnant, perhaps it's stale, perhaps they're considering, oh, I like doing this, but I might be on my way out of it. What's one tip that you would give to fostering an existing community?
So fostering existing community also goes back to growing a consistent community too, because things that are growing are alive. You're able to foster them more. So one tip under grow that I would say is community grows community. It's pretty simple. Community grows community. So, and then when I go to fostering, here's where fostering, it basically takes that grow and takes it a step deeper. Here's what you need to know. I would say, you want to, so when we're talking about fostering community, you want to create content that creates conversation. So create content that's going to create conversation. Like for instance, I remember one time I said in my travel group, I was like, hey, I haven't posted in a couple of weeks. Just wanted to check in with everybody. Here's what's been going on with me. Tell me what you've been doing this summer. And actually my image just said, what have you been up to this summer? Because either you want to put it in the image or you want to put it at the very top. You want to put that question they're going to ask at the very, that you want them to answer right away so it gets them talking. Do you know what happened? I could have said, what have you been doing this summer? Have you traveled anywhere? Are you working? No, I asked one question. Do you know why? Because I had 10 follow-up questions. Because if someone said, oh, I went traveling. Oh, awesome. Where'd you go? Then they respond back. Then when they ask me I've been there, like I'm not one-upping them, be like, oh, I've been there before. What resort did you stay at? I'd love, do you have any pictures to share? Then they share the pictures. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. Like where are you traveling to next? Now I got a 4-day conversation with this person, and that's only one person on that thread. Do you want to know when I asked what's up to everybody in that community? Do you want to know how many comments that group, that post had within a day? We had like 50 some comments in it.
Wow.
Because you know what? Everybody's talking back and forth. So that said, another thing with fostering is do for one. You can't always reply really in-depthly to every person that comments, especially on Instagram. Instagram isn't really meant for community that much. So I try to engage with people, but a lot of people just want to give their one-off, if I say something funny, they just want to just throw a one-off comment in there that's just kind of funny. But there are some people that want to engage. So do for one what you wish you can do for everybody. So do for one. Go ahead.
I wrote down, one, to foster a community, you guys listening, and whether this is at work, professionally at your job, or you're creating an online space. That whole part of being curious, John, which you had mentioned, is to ask a question, but ask one. And then the follow-up questions. Have some follow-up questions. And when I share with leaders in the organization, some of your people want quality minutes. They want a few minutes of conversation with you that have nothing to do with work. That may or may not be that leader skill set, but your people need it. It is not likely you're going to speak and have an in-depth conversation, like you said, with 30 people, but you could pick 1 or 2 a week. You could pick one a day, and it matters. So I love what you mentioned, and I hope you guys are writing this down, because whether you're working at a job, whether you are frontline, whether you are starting an online community, wow. We have about 5 minutes left, John.
Right.
And I want to ask you your thoughts and tips for speed, because this is something that I think you and I and our circle of friends and entrepreneurs do very well. For what I see, we have an idea. We implement the idea very, very quickly, not without thought, but very quickly. And then either that idea succeeds and continues, stays because we enjoy it and don't mind it, or it's scrapped because it didn't meet our definition of success. Can you talk a little bit about your process of speed, from thought to implementation, success, or scrapping it?
That's a lot. All right. We got 5 minutes. Let's do this. So I have a couple gears, Andre. So when you talk about how fast I am at doing things, I also have a very slow gear because I am an avid napper.
No, that I
So
didn't know.
literally, I like taking at least one nap a day, even if it's 10 minutes. So that being said, I have a few gears. And when you get an idea, like I believe you, I don't like using the word busy. I very seldomly, and somebody asked me how you doing, I very seldomly say busy, because you know what busy says? Busy says I don't have my crap in order. Busy says I don't have things organized. I might say, hey, I got a lot of things going on this week, but I'm enjoying my week. Because when you say busy, busy is chaotic. So I try as much as, when I say busy, that means that I'm probably having a tough week because I didn't organize my week properly. Because I can be doing a lot of things, but not be busy, not get stuff done. So I want to organize my week properly so I can make good decisions. So when you're talking about going fast, when I have a decision, I think what slows people down the most is fear. All the decisions that I've went slow on is fear. There was one decision this year that I went slow on, and it was fear that it would fail. And do you know what happened? It didn't end up working out, but I learned a lot from it. But you know what? It took me like 4 months to get it off the ground when I should have got it off the ground in a week. And then I would have been moved on a couple months later onto the next thing. But what scared me was fear of failure. But guess what? What if I started it then? Like, think about this for a second, as everyone that's listening. I think fear is what's going to stop you from taking your next steps faster. I think that's the biggest thing. When Lauren and I started our affiliate marketing business through Facebook, our Facebook group blew up and we grew. And do you know what happened like a couple of years after we started our Facebook group about shopping online and saving people online? Do you know what came about? 2020. What happened? Everybody went shopping online. Guess what happened? We were in the best place possible that we could have been. But if Lauren would have delayed on starting our business, if she would have delayed on getting it going, we wouldn't have been at the right place to be able to catch that wave and move forward. And our business might not be where it is today. So when you have an idea, here's what also slows people down. Done is better than perfect.
Yes. Yes. I tell people it doesn't have to be perfect. Start it and evolve it as necessary.
An entrepreneur shared this with me once. You have an idea for an online course you want to teach? Sell the course before you write it all.
Yes.
Why waste the time, right? You already know it all. It's already in your head. Why waste the time putting it down on paper properly if no one's going to buy it?
Right.
So sell it. You're not selling something you don't know. You already know it. So sell it. When it sells, it's launching in 3 weeks. Guess what? You got 3 weeks to put those 4 sessions together. Put them together.
Let's stop here because we may have to have you on for a part 3. And you guys listening, I hope that you have enjoyed John and everything that he shared, from his story to his power of connection, community, and speed. I want to ask John, as we're wrapping up, how can people get in touch with you and your services through Beebe, through Beebe's Bargains and the Bargains, Beebe's Travel, and or your coaching? So how can people get in touch with you?
So cool little thought. Beebe's Travel is changing names. It's becoming Beebe's Dreamcation. And it's all about helping people create their dream vacations to Walt Disney World and in the future, other Disney destinations. So that is coming. So how do you get a hold of us? So I'm going to have all the show notes, Andre, or I'm going to have my link tree clickable given to you, Andre. That'll be in the show notes. So you can click there, email, websites, all that stuff there. You can find me. Here's the thing. If you find me on social media, my handle is usually the TheJohnBeebe, the John Beebe, no H, and last name is BEEBE. That's where I am there. Again, you probably forgot all of that. Hopefully you thought I said it fun. Go in the show notes and find it. The other thing I want to say is if you need a friend or you just need a listening ear, you need somebody to bounce something off. I've been through a lot in my life. Shoot me a message. Chances are I haven't been through what you've been through, but I'd love to hear about it. Love to encourage you. Love to help you. So come follow me on social media. Say hey to me. Let me know. Hey, I heard you on Andre Young's Leaders Toolbox podcast, and I'd love to connect with you. So just shoot me a message, comment on one of my posts. I'd love to see you on social media or whatever and connect. And hey, if I'm in your town, maybe we'll meet up and have coffee someday, or an Angry Orchard.
I love it. I love it. John, you're phenomenal. You guys listening, I hope you had a great experience. Here's the question that we end with. What was your biggest takeaway from today? It's more than one question. Another question. What homework are you going to give yourself about it? You now know something new because you listened to this show. Knowing something new without applying something new cannot lead to anything new. So what was your biggest takeaway? What homework assignment are you going to give? And please click that and connect with John. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I can't wait to see you next time. Have an awesome rest of your day and enjoy. Take care.